So I was watching you on a podcast
Okay.
and you were talking about the fact that you grew up in the church and you had a purity journey where you did not have sex
Mhm.
before marriage and you honored your body and God in that way.
Mhm.
But your husband, on the other hand, didn't.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say that is such an inspiration because I have a lot of young women who watch my channel and who listen to my podcast, and they struggle with finding women of
Sure.
influence that have gone through that journey, and they do need direction and inspiration and
Mhm.
help with this.
Mhm.
So, you going through that situation, when you got married, did you feel intimidated by the fact that
Yes.
you felt inexperienced? How did that affect your romantic life?
I told you I've been married for 19 years. Girl, it's still a journey today. It's much better. I will say that. It is much, much better than it was early on. The impact was, again, I want to be very, and this is why I use words like the way I internalized it versus the way that it's written, because I want to be clear that sometimes I think people misinterpret God
Okay.
and we teach God wrong. And then as people, once you come into like a different revelation, you want to be mad at God, but it's not God. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I want to be clear. And I want to actually add on to that, that people don't mean harm in what they're teaching you. They also just don't know better. So all of that to say, the way that the purity culture, the way I internalized it, okay, not necessarily how it was taught or what God meant, the way my personal internalization, how it was interpreted to me, was that sex itself became a sin, not sex outside of marriage.
Oh, you're not the only one, by the
Yes.
way,
Yes.
because there are so many women who even struggle to have sex at all with their husband
Correct.
because they've been, I don't want to use the word brainwashed, but they're so
I use the word
intimidated.
brainwash. I'm going to tell you why I use the word brainwash, because my definition, not Webster's, my definition of brainwash is being confronted with the truth and holding on to the lie. So once you know, like, girl, you're married and God said this is okay, but you can still hold on to the lie that says sex is a sin, you were brainwashed a little bit. It's a little bit of
And
brainwashing.
unfortunately, your mind and your body work together. So if your mind believes that you're doing something wrong, your body cannot accept him.
Bingo. And that's been the unlearning part of my journey,
Okay.
is recognizing that sex is something that God created, something that God ordained, and something that can be celebrated in the confines of marriage.
Yes.
It's a journey because you do have to rework your brain,
Yeah.
because being a good girl, it has become like an identity of sorts. Like, this is who and how I identify. I'm such a rule follower to this day. I'm such a rule follower. So to like, it still feels like you're breaking a rule, and you're not, though. Like, it's okay. The rules have changed. No, they haven't changed because I was brought up this way. So all of that is what I caution women about, if you're, or anyone for that matter, if you're growing up and you are saving yourself for marriage, something, do that. If that's your journey, you believe in the Bible, I commend you. Do that. I did it. But do it in a way that still celebrates your body.
Mhm.
Do it in a way that still honors marriage and sex, because that's what God created. He created your body. He created sex. He created intimacy. Those things aren't bad. So be able to celebrate those things, and you can have an awareness of your of intimacy without indulging in sexuality.
Give me
And
an
I think
example.
so you can have an awareness that, I'll give my own personal example. When my husband and I were 27 or so, he asked me to go on a date. And I looked in my closet to go on this date with my husband. I worked at a bank at the time. And my closet was full of long skirts, button-up collared shirts, and slacks. And I remember crying my eyes out,
Oh.
asking myself, how am I 27 years old? My husband is asking me to go on a date, and I can go looking like a banker because I worked at the bank, or looking like it's first Sunday and I'm about to take communion. And I remember like bawling my eyes out. I was so sad. And it started my journey of my sex me over journey, is actually what I called it. of recognizing and embracing sexuality. That doesn't mean that like I have to dress tight, but I also during this time bought a pair of thigh high or knee high boots because I didn't own a pair at the time, because to me they were sexy
Okay.
and I didn't identify as sexy.
Okay.
I can feel beyond feeling like cute or pretty. You can feel sexy.
How do you, I like this whole sex me over thing.
Come
That's
on.
so cute. So how do you feel sexy? What do you do to
Girl,
make
the
yourself feel sexy?
shoulder.
It's a small thing.
It's the small things
Yeah.
for me. Boots. Listen, let me show y'all my boots.
Yeah.
It's Denisha. Girl, zoom in. A good pair of boots makes me feel sexy. Sometimes something as simple as perfume
Mm-hmm.
makes me feel sexy. A good red lip. Girl, something about it does something for me. A big pair of earrings. I love a good pair of earrings. Leather.
Getting your nails done.
Getting my
Your
nails
look really
done.
nice.
I think y'all getting my nail. Like there's so many things. And for me at 27, nails I didn't do. Leather, girl, please, never in a million years. High boots, no, absolutely not. Perfume, I didn't get into perfume until 2020, to be completely honest.
What? Oh my goodness.
All of the, I was so drab is the word I'm going to be, in the name of looking modest, what I believed it meant to be modest. And I have a long sleeve shirt on today. My shoulder's out, but it's still full pair of pants and boots, and I feel sexy.
You look sexy.
Thank you, girl.
Yeah.
And being able, again, to be able to embrace sexuality, or sexuality, intimacy, being comfortable in your skin doesn't mean I have to have sex.
You're right. And I have a podcast where I talked about sensuality.
This is the better word.
Yes, because I think that's what you're really hitting
It's
on.
100% the better word. Sensuality, sexuality. Thank you very much. I love it.
Mhm.
Continue down your path.
So with this whole shift, what was your husband's thoughts? Oh, actually, before I ask that, when you were dating your husband and you grew up with this purity culture and you had a certain way that you wanted to be with him,
Mhm.
did you tell him right from the beginning,
Yes.
this is what I'm doing? Now, before him though, did you date anyone else?
I had maybe 2 other boyfriends
Okay.
before I dated my husband. And the very first guy that I dated, first of all, we didn't go to the same school. We didn't have driver's license. We literally saw each other at church. So like nothing was happening. Okay. We low-key was like, this is so dumb. Like, I can see you like when the district meeting, like this is very dumb. So that didn't work, obviously. Second boyfriend I had was at the same school. Kev actually knows this guy. We were just talking about him like 3 days ago because we'd be making fun of each other, but regardless. And that didn't work because he was not on the same page as me.
Okay.
Even now, I'm like, I don't know why I dated this dude. He literally was not about nothing I was about in terms of education, in terms of, how I felt with my walk with Christ, in terms of where we were going in life. Like none of the things lined up. I don't know why I dated this dude. So that didn't work. And then there was Kevin. And because I was a good girl. I still am, really, at the heart of who I am. I'm still a good girl. There wasn't really a question about it. Like he just kind of pretty much knew. Kevin was also a church boy. He just didn't always do right, but at his heart, he's also a church boy. So he was really attracted to that. It really wasn't, and actually, I don't even know if he would say it started to bother him until after we were married. He may not say that, but it started to bother me because I realized, this has consumed so much of who I am. I wasn't embracing sensuality. And at the time, I'm married, or sexuality,
That's true. A lot of our women, a lot of young girls ask about that when they're dating. They feel like they don't know how to bring up the conversation of, I'm choosing not to have sex until marriage. They don't know. And they feel like if they say that, or if they're already in a relationship and they've made this decision, they've given their heart and their life to Christ, how to bring that up, because there's so much fear that that's going to stop whoever they're dating from dating them.
2 things. Number 1, I have a hard time offering my advice because I was also 16. Kevin and I started dating young.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't really like,
Okay.
like, girl, ain't nobody. I mean, there are people having sex that young, but also there's a lot of people not having sex that young.
Right.
So it was a lot easier for me at the time. But we also dated from 16 until we were 21. like through college. I think we got married, our junior year in college, right before our junior year in college. So there were plenty of opportunities, but by that time he was also very clear, like, this, you know what it is, like, stop. But I would say this: if you are going back to my second boyfriend, try. I know it's hard. I'm going to give the best advice I can. Also understand I wasn't single for a long time in my 20s at all, actually. But this is advice I would give. Find a man who finds that important as well. That would be my best piece of advice. More than timing, try to find someone whose morals and values more closely align with yours. So that way that information doesn't feel so shocking. It doesn't feel foreign because it's something they're familiar with. And maybe even if they've slipped, as you get older, you're more likely to have slipped. Even if they've slipped, at least they understand the importance of what you're offering or what you're suggesting.
That's great advice. And I think it's also important to know that when you are choosing someone or you're opening yourself up to someone, having that conversation and not feeling like you owe them something. So it's like, okay, now that they know this, they probably don't like me. So then now you're more insecure in the relationship, or you feel like you have to overcompensate in other ways in the relationship because you're not giving them something that they deserve, right?
Yes.
So it's a mental shift. But when you find someone who also values that, or values that you value that and loves that about you, then you just feel comfortable. In
And
your
you feel
skin.
safe in
You
it.
feel
You
safe.
feel safe in that decision making, and you don't feel like you have to compromise who you are to keep them.
Exactly.
And know this: if you do compromise, and I mean that in the word of compromise, right? You may find yourself resentful later,
Yes.
and that's not healthy either. That's not good for the relationship either.
That causes a lot of mental health issues from what I've seen. Women who have unfortunately compromised and they were not happy about it, but they were doing it anyway. And even when you're married, I feel like that can even come up.
Absolutely.
Where you feel like you're doing things that you're not necessarily comfortable with,
Absolutely.
but you feel like you have to.
Yep.
It's definitely something that can cause resentment. So you're right about that.